All right, let's talk about the essential Photoshop skills you need to convert a design mockup to HTML and CSS. So I've opened standard.psd in the latest version of Photoshop. Now we can press Z to select the zoom tool. And by clicking, we can zoom in. Or if we press Alt and then click, we can zoom out. Pretty easy. Now, if you hold down space and drag and drop, we can move around. Good. Now, these blue lines you see here, they're called guides. We can hide them by going to View and deselecting extras. We also have a shortcut here. On Mac, it's Command and H. On Windows, it's Control and H. All right, now let's see how we can pick the color of various elements. So I'm going to zoom in and find out the color of this button. So on the left, look, we have this tool called Eyedropper tool. If you don't see this, click and hold, then you will see this panel. So in this section, we have a bunch of tools. The first one is Eyedropper tool. We have other tools like Ruler, which we're going to use in a second. So we select Eyedropper. We also have a shortcut for this. The shortcut is I. So with this selected, we can click on the button. And over here, we can see this color selected in the foreground. So by clicking on this box, then we can see the color picker box. And down here, we can see the color in hexadecimal. We also have the color in RGB if you want to use it. So this is how we can pick colors. Now let's see how we can find the size of fonts. So I'm going to press the space and move around. Let's find out the size of this title. So we press T to enable the type tool. Then we click on the text. You can see the text is selected. Obviously, we can change it. Now over here, you can see the size in points. But in web design, we don't want to use points. Points are used in printing. So we go to Photoshop, Preferences, and Units and Rulers. If you're on Windows, the Preferences menu is probably under the Edit menu. I think it's down below. So let's go to Preferences and Units and Rulers. Now over here, we can select the unit for types. I'm going to change this from points to pixels. Good. Now we can see the size of this heading in pixels. And by the way, this size is for desktop. So here's the mobile version of our design. Let's zoom in and find out the size of the heading. It's 70 pixels. So as we're building these components, pay close attention to these sizes. They vary between mobile and desktop. Now there is something tricky about finding the size of a font. Using the type tool, if we don't click in the right spot, let's say if we click over here, we end up inserting new text. If that happens, simply press the escape button and the text that you just inserted disappears. So zoom in, always zoom in and then select the text to see its size. So this line is 20 pixels on mobile, okay? Now to get out of this, we simply press the escape button. Good. Now let's see how we can measure the size of elements or their distances. So back over here to our eyedropper tool, we click and hold and select the ruler tool. If you want to use keyboard, hold down Shift, and by pressing I, you can iterate over these tools, okay? So I'm going to select the ruler tool. Now we can see the size of this button by clicking here, dragging, and going to the other side, okay? Now up here, you can see the width in pixels, that is 398 pixels. We're not going to use these exact values. We'll use values that will be really close to what you see here. Now, using the same technique, we can also measure paddings and margins. So let's click here and drag. So over here, you can see the padding. The height of our ruler is now 24 pixels. So when coding this, we will use a relative unit that will eventually map to somewhere around 24 pixels. It doesn't have to be the exact value, but the value that we'll choose will be very close to what you see here. So that's pretty much it. You learn how to pick colors, how to find out the size of fonts, and how to measure the size of elements and their distances from each other. Now, the last thing I want to cover is the history panel. If you accidentally screw something and insert something in this design, you can easily undo it. So we go to the window menu, then we open up the history panel. Over here, you can see all the changes applied to this document. So currently I haven't inserted anything, but if I use the type tool and accidentally type something here, it doesn't matter. Then we can see a new change in the history. So we can go one step back, or we can simply delete this from here. As simple as that.